in your Black Girl Songbook.
Yes, indeed, and that voice right there, that's one of the most revered, educated, committed, dedicated voices that this culture has ever seen. I've known her for decades. I watched her career rise when she worked in San Francisco at the San Francisco Bay Guardian. She actually worked for newspapers, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you know what a newspaper is, the East Bay Express, the San Francisco Weekly, but she really, really made waves for African Americans, and especially women in journalism, when she became the first African American editor for Billboard, and then the first African American and woman editor for Vibe.com and Vibe, and she's gone on to do so much more. I can't put it in words and all in this intro, but I am happy to have her on this show today. My Bay Area sisterin', the one and only Danyel Smith. Danyel!
Wait, that introduction, man, I don't even know y'all wilding at 3 in the morning. I cannot believe that wonderful introduction. I mean, all you really had to say is, this is my friend from Oakland, and I would have been totally straight. Thank you so much for that.
Yo, you know what, Danyel? Let me tell you something, because it's, you know, I've been around as long. You know what I mean? So I've seen the evolution of it all. I've seen the evolution of the business, and I've seen the evolution of music journalism. And there are some pillars, some pioneers, some unsung heroes that play very pivotal roles in our of our growth and how we tell our stories, and even how we document our stories, that aren't mentioned enough, in my opinion. You know, and so I truly believe that you are one of those people. People like Sheena Lester. You know Sheena Lester.
Yeah, of course. Sheena and I work together, of course.
Okay. Talk about, where did y'all work together?
We worked together at Vibe.
At Vibe,
like,
okay.
Yes, we were music editors right behind each other. And then when I was promoted to editor-in-chief, she was my music editor for a while. She served the readers of Vibe beautifully. Of course, I know Sheena, but as you said, there's so many, like, there's a lot of us out there that just did a lot of work, you know, in the 90s, in the 2000s, just trying to always represent for the culture.
Can we name some of those women?
Ooh. Well, I can definitely name, let's go to Mimi Valdez.
Mimi Valdez,
Who's
okay.
Also, yes.
Another former editor-in-chief of Vibe.
Absolutely, and Mimi is Pharrell's creative director. She has moved on in that direction. I was just recently on a panel with Sophia Chang, who was so active in the careers of Wu-Tang Clan and so many others. I can think of people in A&R. I can think of people in journalism, men and women. I can think of Emil Wilbekin, who's the former editor-in-chief.
What's up, Emil?
Also, yes, I talk to Emil all the time. Let's talk about Daquan Thomas, who's the current and sitting editor-in-chief of Vibe right now. We could talk about my husband, who was the former editor-in-chief of XXL for 8 years. And made
Elliot
that
Wilson.
Ow.
What it was. Yes, Elliot Wilson is always in the building. I mean, there's just so many people that work, like, at the source, like the late Chimo Du, who took all the photos for the Source magazine and gave the Source the visual prominence that it had in the 1990s and 2000s. There's many of us. Sasha Jenkins, who's a director of documentaries and things of that nature at this point, and just many of us out here still contributing, and that's what feels so great to know that we have that background and that foundation, all of us together.
I think that background and that foundation has been the key to our longevity, because obviously we had to come up differently in this journalist space than what you see now in the world of social media and its digital age, which is fine, because all of us, how Heather was telling me yesterday, we have this cultural equity. So, you know, the content, the IP that we have it's invaluable. You can't really put a price on it. And I'm curious, having been transcended all of these generations like we have, what is your perspective on the State of the Union on hip-hop journalism right now?
Well, that's such a good question, Sway. I will say this. there are many people that are holding the torch. I think in some ways maybe they don't call it hip hop journalism as we did as we came up, but even though they're not necessarily calling it that, it moves with that spirit. I can think about somebody I worked with after I left Bill. I worked every place twice. I worked at Vibe twice. I worked at Billboard twice. And after I left Billboard the last time, I went to work at ESPN for a site called The Undefeated. It's a great site. It's very specific to the Black experience. It's a platform at ESPN. And one of the people that I worked with while I was there, really the whole team that I had there, they practiced hip-hop journalism because I was team leader. So that's the energy that I gave. So when you think about somebody like Justin Tinsley, who writes about sports and music at The Undefeated, Aaron Dodson, and also Justin has a book about Biggie coming out. It's about Biggie before he got famous. It's just about his life story up until he got signed, just really talking about who Christopher Wallace was as a boy and as a young man, which I know is going to be a very important book for late next spring. So it's people like Justin, it's people like David Dennis. There's just all types of people out there that are learning from those of us that came up in the school of hard knocks, pretty much, journalism-wise. Came up when everyone thought that hip-hop wasn't even a real art form, and everyone was telling us, and Sway, I know you remember, everyone was telling us it was a fad. When certain nightclubs and even stadium-sized venues refused to book rap because, oh, my God, it's supposed to be so dangerous. Meanwhile, there was more bad stuff happening at rock and roll shows than was happening at hip-hop shows. So we came up in that era, and I'm just happy that there's so many of us, like yourself, Sway, too, that are here to talk to the younger people that are coming up and infusing them with that energy, because we still have battles to fight.
Still have battles to fight. Danyel Smith is here. Danyel Smith is here.
Yes.
888-742-3345. You can ask her anything. She's been documenting this culture for a couple of decades, so ask her anything. 888-742-3345. Tracy G.
Yo, I mean, citizens, I got to start by saying this, especially since Danyel is with us. I mean, this is a woman with such a powerful essence who really, for me, represents the very first time, I think, outside of my own mother, that I ever saw female leadership up close and personal. I've mentioned this several times throughout my years here at Sway in the Morning, but I interned at Vibe, and this was more than an internship. This was like an apprenticeship. It was a whole program that I'm so grateful I got to be a part of. And this is when Danyel was editor-in-chief, and I was so in awe of her demeanor, her vision, her visions, her work ethic. Like every day, I'm telling you, citizens, as an intern, I made sure in the morning before I arrived through the doors of Vibe that I had some type of topic to speak to Danyel about, just in case we were ever in the elevator together. That's how much I just revered this woman. If there was any piece of note that got passed my way that had 3 letters, DSW, on it, I was like, whoo, this means, girl, I have one of them still at my parents' home that I saved.
Oh, no. Tracy, it is so good to hear your voice, honestly. I always tell people that anybody that ever worked at Vibe, I don't care what era, I don't care under which editor-in-chief, it's all of us are a family. But those that worked with me, I remember seeing you, Cherie Carroll, in the internship program at Vibe when I was there. She was known as the executive assistant to the editor-in-chief, but really she was running Vibe on the low, quietly, as you know, Tracy.
Yes.
She knew everything that was going on at all times, and she ran the internship program. And I know many people that are grateful to Cherie for all the leadership that she demonstrated in that position. And I remember seeing you. I remember seeing Tajani. Tajani works with me on Black Girl Songbook.
That's my boo.
Yes, she does. She's the story consultant on Black Girl Songbook. And that's because I do believe we had something special at Vibe. And it really does warm my heart when I think about you saying that you would always want to have something ready to say to me, because I always believe in the youngest among us. I always believe in, I used to couldn't stand, and Tracy, you know this, when I would ask the intern, well, what do you think about the cover photo? Or what do you think about this story going in? And they would be like, well, I don't know. I'd be like, oh, no. That's not an appropriate answer. I need you to have an answer and for you to back up your answer, because it's not always going to be me that's asking. It's going to be somebody at your next job or your next opportunity, or someone that you're trying to get to finance your business. And you're going to have to be Johnny on the spot with yours. And so if that stayed with you, Tracy, I feel like I understood the assignment. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, you did. Even like the sound of you snapping your fingers brought me all the way back to a time. But listen. Yes.
I don't think people realize either that all of us that were running magazines for the culture, I think when it comes out, and Tracy, you know this because you saw it being built every month. When it comes out, it looks very shiny, right? It looks very pretty. Everything is spelled correctly. Maybe there's going to be a party celebrating the cover person, whoever it is. Is it Usher? Is it Brandy? Is it Lil Wayne? But we were always functioning on spit and glue. We were always functioning on, do we have enough money to get the issue out the way we want it to look? Do we have enough people in the right jobs to get things done? Everybody that worked at Vibe, XXL, The Source, Essence Right Now, Latina, all these types of books, everybody's doing 3 jobs. Okay, everybody's functioning at levels that they may never have to again, because they believe. They really do believe, and I still believe.
Danyel Smith.
That's why we have songbooks. That's why we have it.
Yeah. You know, on the note that Sway was making, just on the State of the Union of hip hop journalism, I remember a time when bloggers were first starting to come into a space, and it's so crazy how that is so normal, you know, in our culture right now, and I think personally for the better. But in the beginning, there were so many questions about, like, is this access to creating content so freely gonna be good for us, you know, in terms of like quality control? Because even Citizens, to be an intern at Vibe at that time, like, that was a rigorous interview process that I went through. And even eventually I ended up working at Vibe under Jermaine Hall's leadership. And that was a lot to get there. Yes. Yep. Shout out to Jermaine. I learned so much under his leadership as well. But there was just a lot that you had to prove. And there was just a process. And that helped me personally to respect my job and everyone else involved in the team as much. But now sometimes when you can so freely just create, you know, for the sake of public consumption, a lot of people believe that it waters down the final product. At any point, were you worried about anyone being able to just hit publish on the web and what it would do to the culture overall?
I mean, first of all, Tracy, I worry about everything. You know what I mean? I still worry about a semicolon that was accidentally in place of a comma 15 years ago. So I worry about everything all the time. So, yes, I worry about that. I worry about not so much like, is it going to water it down if you press publish? I worry that, is there a generation of what we now call content creators that just don't have the training to even know that they're doing something that isn't traditional, right? Because of the way the media, both the Black media and just media in general, has been so gutted over the last 20 years, 10, 15 years, 20 years, there's not a lot of people who have been trained in the way that you have, Tracy, and in the way that I have. And that was hard. And as you said, we came up like, this has to be right. Everything has to be spelled correctly.
Yep.
You have to back up your, whatever your thought is about a piece of art or a piece of music. You have to back that up with some facts. You have to put that person, that artist or that album or whatever into historical context. You have to pitch it to people who know more than you, and then you have to be able to just to explain why you want to do this particular story. So that does worry me. But the thing is, on that same coin, though, is this thing of Black people and people of color have been held back for so long with regard to pressing publish on anything. It has been so hard since slavery, if I can go back that far, for us to even communicate with each other. That's one of the main reasons that hip-hop is hip-hop. Because at the beginning of rap, and I know Sway and I could go all day about this, it was really artists talking to each other. If you were an artist in Oakland and you were an artist in Brooklyn, you didn't even know what people were playing on the radio in Brooklyn, or if there were problems on a block in Brooklyn, and the people in Brooklyn didn't know what was going on in Houston, and Houston didn't know what was going on in Miami. There's so much power in that. That's why hip-hop is hip-hop. So while I do worry, I don't know why he said that. That don't even make sense. Why is she talking about that like that? She needs to do more reading. Yes, sometimes that's my mode, but sometimes I'm like that. Listen, I hope everybody's pushing publish. Because we all need to be talking to each other, and we all need to listen to each other and take, criticism and say, but we all need that freedom. It feels so good to me when I know that you, Tracy, and the people that come up under you are pressing publish. I'm like, amen to it. Amen to it.
Danyel Smith is here. She has the podcast Black Girl Songbook, available exclusively on Spotify, perhaps soon to be over here with Pandora and our team. Let's see if we can talk her into that.
Way to tie it in, Calloway.
He only wants me to come over there. He only is having me on the show, not because I'm quote-unquote Danyel Smith. He's only having me on the show today. I hope his whole audience knows is because we're both from Oakland. That's the only reason.
Yo, he waves y'all flag so high.
Danielle. Yo, hey, that's my Bay Area. So you already know.
That's your sister's keeper.
Come on, you already know. I was like, what's it at? Oh, nah, she from the town. That overrides everything.
Right.
Yeah, but I got a chance to listen in on the episode with Brandy, and I really enjoyed it because, you are who you are. You've done this. You're a master at what you do, and you were able to really create a warm environment for her to talk about music. And I don't know if Brandy is appreciated enough, and I think that's why this Black Girl Songbook podcast is so important. Tell me, when did you think of doing this, and why? When did this happen?
I feel like I've been in training for it probably my whole life since I first started listening to music. But, I just love music. There's never going to be a greater love for me. Like if you think about film, you think about even books, music stands out as the art form that I'm just in love with and have been in love with since I was like a toddler, pretty much. And then when I think about very specifically, when I started thinking about it, was I saw how the women that we covered in Vibe, those were the big covers, man. Those were the ones that the audience pretty much always responded to a woman on the cover. No shots to the guys, but some of y'all were a coin toss. Tracy knows. So,
I do.
But if you put Mariah on the cover, if you put Janet on the cover, Brandy, Whitney, Mary J. Blige, you pretty much knew it was going to be a successful month. But yet the women weren't getting the credit for that. What people would always want to talk about, God bless us, like the T.I. covers, the Wayne covers, the Snoop covers. And I love all those guys, but the women were not getting the credit that they deserved. So then I decided to, after being at ESPN, to finish a project I had been working on for a long time, which was a history of Black women in pop music. And that book is coming out in April. I'm very excited about it. It's called Shine Bright, a very personal history of Black women in pop. And I have been working on that off and on for years, and I finally finished it. And then when I realized I was done, I said to myself, but wait, I just have more to say, though, because there's not enough room, and it's a thick book. It's like over 300 pages.
Wow.
But it is. I love Tracy being a journalist. Tracy knows. And
300 pages.
Listen.
Yeah, right. She knows about pages. She knows the work that goes in. Tracy, you know I have fact checking, copy editing, everything.
All of that. Editors
all of
galore.
That, right? So, yes. But when I finished, because the book is very personal to my experience, I could not include every single woman that had ever recorded a song in my book. And even the women that are in it, each of those women is deserving of 20 books. So I was like, I just have more to say. And I started just looking at the landscape. And I always like to challenge myself with regard to, like, platform. You know, I'm getting myself together to be a host. I'm getting myself together to be an author again. I even have taken some acting classes recently to kind of... Oh, sure enough. Even to free my mind. And I don't have to be, you know, the same person I was at 30 that I am now that I'm in my 50s. So, and I looked at the space where people were talking about music, audio-wise. And I said, let me see if I can humble myself to this process and learn about it. And I think I'm really on a good journey because I want to create, just like you said, Sway, a safe space. I've known Brandy since she was 14. Since she was 14 years old, I went to Brandy's first listening. And so Brandy knows I'm blessed to have the type of reputation that Brandy knows that when I'm calling, I'm not calling for craziness. I'm calling to talk about the work. I'm calling to talk about her life. I'm calling to talk about the things that she's done in her career that people don't give her credit for. I cannot believe how The Boy Is Mine was the hit that it was. It was the biggest record of that year overall, period. Biggest record of that year. And people don't even know that Brandy is a co-writer and producer on that song. And that she was the one that was like, I really think it should be Monica. And it was Monica. It's like, how do we not know?
Wow.
How do we not just call Brandy a singer-songwriter when that title is bandied around for white women singer-songwriters, black male singer-songwriters, but we don't call Brandy a singer-songwriter. We just say she's a singer. And there's a lot of, you know, joy and there's so much, you know, status to being a singer. But when you call somebody a singer-songwriter, that just adds another element of genius to who they are and what they do. And so why don't we call her that? Well, we call her that on Black Girl Songbook.
There you go.
Yes,
indeed. I got to go back. So the Vibe cover that had Death Roll on it didn't compare to the covers that have women on it.
Okay, so let me just say this. That's an outlier. And that cover, I will say, one, it was a hugely successful cover. Any Tupac cover, any cover that had Tupac Shakur on it, I could probably speak for the other editors of the other magazines of that era. It was a sure shot. There was it was never a question, and this is him, dead or alive. So that Death Row cover, one, is probably the cover that I get asked about the most of any cover. Whenever I do things like this, people want to know about Death Row. People will hit me on Twitter right now and say, can I get a poster of it? So that issue is just, and the stories that went along with it. It was a very crazy time in rap. It was a very bloody time in our art form and in our business, and it was very, we didn't know it at the time, I think, but it was very traumatic, honestly, to us as hip hop fans, to us as hip hop journalists. It was very traumatic for the culture to come back from. We didn't know if we were going to come back from that. And that cover, I think, really does symbolize, like, a lot of the wildness of that era. So let me not take anything away from that cover, or any Tupac cover, because, as I said, it was always a sure shot.
It was always a short shot. Danyel, I had an experience once where I did a story on MTV, and I want to see how much of this I want to. I'm not an oversharer, so I kind of, I did a story on MTV that was a big story about a shooting that took place in New York City, right? And the guy who did the shooting was at large. They were trying to find him, and it was artists that were involved. And I remember reporting this story, just reporting the story, right? And, I always would take whoever, MTV, you had a lot of writers, so you would have to take what they wrote and rewrite and put in your own words and all these different things. We was doing 20 stories a day. I remember doing this story, and I went outside, and I went to the grill to get something to eat downtown Manhattan, and the story started running 10 to the hour, and the person's who was on the run, brother, saw the story, came, somehow somebody notified him that I was at a restaurant, and I was threatened by these people. These individuals came into the restaurant, they threatened me, they said, yo, you a part of the problem. And I said, well, what did I do that makes me a part of the problem? He said, well, you were talking about it on air. I said, they talked about it on CBS, they talked about it on NBC, but you're coming to me. What did I say incorrectly? Isn't that what happened? He said, yeah, but you're still a part of the problem. And I sat with that for us. I wasn't worried about the threat thing because I was young and wildly. That was my first year coming out of, California, being in New York, so I was ready for it. But it made me think about our role in journalism and what do we do? Because we do got to get the big covers in order to sell the magazine or get the metrics. We do have to tell certain stories in order to get the eyeballs and those sort of things. When that death row, when East Coast, West Coast was happening, and that whole era that we're talking about right now, it was a funk. Yeah. Everywhere you went, it was just cloudy. Even when the sun was out, you go places, it was just funky all the time. Vibe and many people pointed the finger at Vibe, right? I remember Kevin was going through this too. People pointed the finger at Vibe for kind of perpetuating this beef and kind of fueling the flames of this beef. I wanted to know, have you ever kind of got backlash from a story that you guys did, or when that kind of commentary is coming at Vibe? How did you process that? How did you navigate to that sort of situation?
It's very interesting that you say that. I've definitely been in that situation where I've been at a restaurant and somebody has come in ready to fight me. I've told this story many times, and I appreciate you not mentioning any names, and I won't either. But as you said also, and as we joke about, there's something to be said about being from a city like Oakland. And I think a lot of us in positions of power at that time, we were ready for it, right? As you said, I was ready for it in the restaurant. I think you had to have a lot of toughness about you to be in our business at that time. I can think of a particular time when there's an artist who has been accused of heinous crimes against young women. And it was being discussed in Vibe. And there was a guy who ran the label that this artist was signed to, an older man, a white gentleman. And he called up to my office. And I don't know if you could curse on the show.
You can.
But I was called every bitch that it was possible to be called. And stupid and dumb and ruining a black man's life. And basically, I wasn't shit. And da-da-da-da-da. And then that artist got on the phone and was basically like, I'm going to sue Vibe under the table. Everything that you're saying isn't true, it's libelous, etc. And as Tracy knows, everything that ran in Vibe went by lawyers before it was published.
Yep.
So I felt quite confident in the reporting that was in the story. And I felt quite confident telling that artist and that label head, if you want to sue, sue. But I don't think that you will, because then we're going to have to go through discovery, and then we really all going to have to talk about it, aren't we? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that it's not a tough position. Nobody likes to see bad things about themselves in print. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Even it's very powerful. So when that guy walked up on you in the grill, shout out to the grill also, but
Word.
Right? When that person walked up on you, I also think it's like I was saying earlier, it has taken us as people of color, as black people, so long to even be covered. Okay, like it takes some getting used to have somebody report on you. If you, mainstream culture, white people have been used to this since Benjamin Franklin.
Wow, yeah.
Okay, so we really aren't used to it. I remember going to see New Jack City at a screening. It's how old I am. And it was just a lot of people, you know, press-wise, in a very small screening room watching it. And we all thought it was, you know, the Black Godfather. It was everything we dreamed of come to life. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of, when that film first came out, there were a lot of fights in the theaters. Like, black people were wilding out in the theaters, fighting each other. There was a problem. And my thought at the time, and I wrote about it, was this. This is the first time black people have seen themselves on screen like this. They don't even know how to act. A mirror is being held up to our culture, and we're sitting there like, oh my God, hearts are racing. Like, hormones are surging. And so that when that guy walked up to you, God bless him. I probably know him. But my thing is this. He wasn't used to it, Sway.
Yeah.
He wasn't used to it. Every editor at XXL, The Source, and Vibe has been threatened, has been physically assaulted, has had their office run into violently. All of us. Mm-hmm. That's why when I say it was a traumatic time for the culture, it was. And when you say there was a fog over us, there was.
Mm-hmm. Definitely was. Danielle, I see we're going to have to do this some more.
Hello.
Aw, y'all agree. This is such a good show. Honestly, you have Tracy, Sway, that's what I'm saying. Even you had to come to Vibe Alumni.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Danielle. Don't do that. And also, I got the Queen Heather B. So, you know, I'm surrounded by some powerful queens.
What's up, Danielle?
I love it. I love it so much.
Yes, indeed. That's Heather right there, Danielle.
Oh, hey, Heather, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
It's so good to hear your voice.
Yours too. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you have it going on over there.
Yo, I'm trying to tell you, Danielle, I did it right this time. You know, I got these two powerful voices next to me at all times, and Heather keeps me in line, and Tracy keeps me informed, so I'm all right.
Hey.
Okay, but congratulations
like
to you.
That.
Absolutely. Congratulations to you, Danielle. Can't tell you how proud I am of you. In the Bay, Northern California, we salute you. Continue with this amazing journey you've been on, and you haven't even reached halftime. So let's keep going. All these amazing projects you have. And Black Girl Songbook is available on Spotify. You guys give it a listen, and then hopefully we'll get her on Pandora too. I'll say it again. And look for her forthcoming book, Shine Bright, A Personal History of Black Women in Pop. You are so good for the culture. Thank you for being on the show, Danyel. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Love you guys.
Love you
too. Have a great day, okay?
You too.
Danyel Smith, man. Come on. Listen, check her out, Black Girl Songbook.
Black.